Hey, welcome in the second edition of IoT Decoded. IoT Decoded is the podcast on LP1 and technologies. LP1 technologies are low power wide area network, so they are the engine of the IoT actually. In this second edition for September 2019 month, TTN, it's actually celebrating its 4 year, so that's an interesting news. Then I propose to talk a bit about the really last breaking news about Cigfox and the first $1 device. And after, I propose to go to some news about Alibaba and Chinese market, talk a bit about Carlink, who is a LoRaWAN gateway provider, and then to finish with this main security issue discovered this month. I named SIM jacker, spying things around the SIM cards. So let's start with TTN. TTN, the SIM network, is the LoRaWAN crowdsourced network. And it's an open network. It's kind of Linux for LoRaWAN, for IoT networks. And now they are celebrating the 4-year-old of this network. So really congratulations, guys. Once again, you rocks, making this network a reality. What is interesting that year is the growth of the network. It comes from 700 cities last year to 900 cities. On this network, we mostly count on cities number because there's no national deployment. You and me are deploying the network. So 900 cities is a good thing. And the more interesting number for me is the number of gateways. They were at 4,500 last year, and now they are announcing 8,000 gateways connected to the network. So that's really, really, really great. I was interested about an infographic about this gateway. So the number, as everything is open on TTN, you can make your statistic on your own. And someone has done statistic on the different gateways that are deployed on the network. And that was interesting to me because, this network is a hacker network, okay? So it's people like you and me deploying gateways. And so, a hacker network is based on kind of hacker gateways. And with no surprise, most of the gateways are based on RPI, Raspberry Pi. And Dragino or TTIG gateways. So there are more indoor gateways, even if some of the Raspberry Pi gateways has been put outdoor with all the stuff you need. But basically, it's most indoor gateways. And the number of more professional like gateways like Multitech, Carlink, Laird's gateways, LoX1, okay, it's about 3,000 gateway, which is really good. It's a huge and interesting number. So according to what I've got in this infographic, and the number is a bit higher than the number of connected gateways, so I assume that this infographic is more based on the total number of gateway registered all over the time on the network. We have something like twice the number of gateways that are more hacker kind of gateways for more fixed and more professional gateways. So that's just interesting. To see that, and I really think that this network is going to progress in the coming year. So really good, guys. We need to continue and reach 1,000 cities and reach 10K connected gateway. That's a good goal, and this is a goal that can be achieved by the end of the year. So that's really great. The second big news is Cigfox $1 devices. Wow, that's really interesting to me because that's something that really change the game in the IoT, and it's really makes Cigfox as a different network compared to the other. Well, because when we talk about $1 device, it's really a device. It's not a chip. Okay, it's really the device, full device itself. So it means with the battery, with the PCB, with all the chip that you need, and with a plastic box. Okay, so that's really interesting because it's kind of trashable IoT. Okay, that's not good to talk about trashable. I mean, reusable IoT if you want. Okay, that's the idea. So that's really interesting because you can. I mean, when you had something where the value was just $10, it was really difficult to add an IoT on it because it's a price. This value is the price of the IoT. But now with $1, I mean, you can have something interesting in IoT even if the value of the product or value of the process is only $10. That's really interesting. For making this kind of device, it's basically if you have in mind Cigfox Connect 2 years ago, it was the first one in Prague, and Christophe Forte was showing a letter able to communicate when you open it. Okay, and he announced a really low cost Cigfox devices. It was based on the same technology, and this technology is simply your garage door remote control. Okay, that's this kind of technology which is used. That's why it's really low cost. It's because it's a technology that is already really well used in the market with a really low cost chip and so on. So it's really ready. That's really interesting for this. How it works? Because I mean, if it's something new, it's because it's. I mean, they had to tweak a little bit the things to make it working. The first thing is that your garage door is not able to modulate Sigfox signal. Okay, it's otherwise we may know that. So it means that you have to hack this remote control to be able to do a Cigfox modulation, and that's possible. In fact, your remote control is able to communicate on a given frequency. It's not able to change the phase as the Cigfox require, but as you can change the frequency, you can slow it down, and by doing this, you change the phase. So by doing this, you are able to do the phase modulation as it is needed in the Cigfox. So by software, you can do that and it works well. But it has an impact. If you do that, it means that your spectrum footprint is larger than you need in Cigfox and you must have in Cigfox. So it means that to accept this technology, Cigfox had to change a bit the way the type of pattern they are accepting. So this is what they are doing, and so that's why it's something new actually. So they will accept this kind of modulation, and it also has a consequence. If your modulation has a frequency footprint which is larger, it also means that you can have less objects able to communicate in the same time, so the scalability is lower. So they accept a larger footprint, but in the same time they request you to reduce the transmitted power to go down to 7 dB instead of the 14, and thanks to that, they will accept it on the network. So by doing this, it has an impact on the coverage. Okay, so for sure it means that the device coverage will be lower. Basically, inside a city, it's not a big issue as the density of the network is really large actually. Inside building, it can be a limitation for sure. But what is interesting is now with the micro gateway, you can easily deploy your gateway near your devices. And so even if the power is slower, in many use cases, you can have a gateway around your device to manage the communication. And as soon as you are outdoor in the city, is really work well. I tested it, so I really see a good result on outdoor. So you can check that in my website, www.dask91.com. I have a full article describing exactly how it works and so on. So there's different things Cigfox is dealing with. So some other is that the clock is based on a quartz instead of TCXO, so the stability is lower. And the other point is if you want to use a really small battery like a button battery, when you require a lot of power, the voltage will decrease, and with the voltage decrease, you're gonna have a slower bit rate. Okay, so all of these parameters are not especially correctly supported by the network usually, but one of the really strengths of Cigfox network is its ability to be software radio and to be upgraded. So they're actually deploying some update to support this kind of thing like bitrate moving and so on. So it means that it's really something that is working. I've tested it once again, and it's something that will be in production really soon. So that's a really, really, really interesting technology. So take a look at it. That's really cool. $1 for a full device. Okay, MCU, antenna, PCB, plastic box, and so on. So just let's imagine what you can do with such thing. So really, really, really good. Other news, we have a really bad news. I was really unhappy to see that. It's Starlink. I talk a bit with Starlink. They are the first LoRaWAN gateway I had in test when I started with LoRaWAN, I think 3 or 4 years ago now. It's a really good French company making really good hardware, really, really high quality hardware. They are deploying network operator, but the price of their hardware is not really expensive. And also they have indoor gateways that are really, really not expensive. But in my point of view, as they were making business with network operator, and telecom operator, and as telecom operator finally did not deploy a lot of country in LoRaWAN, if we had also the competition that is become bigger in this gateway domain for LoRaWAN, Starlink had to reduce its people by 23%. Which is big for technology, which is actually growing. So I'm really happy of this. I'm still really happy to say that they are saving 77% of people. And so I think there will be enough people to continue to develop product and make really interesting in the domain. But that's a negative signal on the market, by the way. Okay. Another thing that is interesting to follow is I saw Alibaba making lots of enhancement around the RISC-V. That's interesting because there is a economical fight between North America and China. We saw that with Android stuff and the limitation of access to Android for Huawei and so on. And it means that Chinese must be careful with North American technology. It's not stable for them now. Even if I think that's gonna change later, but they just understand that they are not anymore able to count on it, and so instead of betting everything on ARM, now they are really taking a look to RISC-V, which is an open source MCU core, and so they don't have any risk like Android and ARM with using RISC-V. So that's interesting to think a bit about Semtech. The first market for Semtech in LoRa technology is China. So it's interesting to see what is going to happen on this market for Semtech next year, seeing if it has an impact, and also to see what China is gonna do about IoT. Will they deploy a bit more Cigfox, or will they create their own technology, or will they bet on everything on NB IoT? That's interesting to see what is gonna happen on this. But for sure, the market is basically unstable due to that, and the impact on technology progress could be high on this. So interesting to follow in the coming months. The last news I want to share with you is, security news. I think actually every month, it's second month, so okay, but every month I have a big issue on security to enhance on IoT. This month is SIMjacker. So SIMjacker is, the use of some official backdoor in the SIM card. So it impacts all the 3GPP based technology. And this is a capability for a SIM card to execute some code based on instruction received through SMS communication. It means that it's not really the SIM itself that is totally dangerous, but it's a protocol between the SIM and the module, and so the SIM receives the message and asks the module to get information like a position, and then ask the module to send a response with this position inside. Okay, so it means that basically through SMS you can send a standard program executable on every theme, communicating with a module and doing thing you are not expecting to see. The problem behind this security all is that the IoT or the smartphone developer or engineer did not make any mistake. They just used a standard 3GPP module, and they were not aware of this risk. It was kind of undocumented thing, and it exists since multiple years. Okay, the issue behind this is that we in the LTE, and BIoT, 3G, 4G, and so on, we are really complex technology. There is a bunch of services available on this kind of module, and as a consequence, you do not master everything. Basically, when you are making an IoT, you are using a 3G, 4G, and so on module. You just ask some simple order like open a communication, send this kind of bytes through internet, and so on. That's it. It's really easy. Interface is easy to use, basically. But behind this interface, there are hundreds of different functions you do not use, but they are there. And what is the impact of this function is not really clear. What can be the side effect? It's not really clear. And basically, actually, currently we don't really know if SIMjacker is impacting your device or not, because this kind of function, they can be implemented, but or they are not implemented. And most of them, they are not documented, so you don't really know. And you can patch it because it's inside the module. It's between the SIM card and the telecom module. It's things you're not planned to update. You can have, but usually you're not, because you consider it as stable. It's a black box for you, and this black box can be malicious. So that's interesting. And when we see that the impact is more than 1 billion impacted devices, that's the estimate. And as said, the perimeter of impacted device is totally unclear, because we don't know what are the modules that are accessible through that system. So that's something interesting to think about when we are selecting a solution for communication in IoT and so on. Okay, to think about the complexity as something that can be a risk for future, and think about how we can prevent for this. Okay, so I let you think about all of this. We are at the end of the second episode of IoT Decoded. I really thank you for following it. I really appreciate if you share it with your friend. And for the next episode, it will be in a month, about 15 to 25 of October, depending on the actuality and the time I will have to do that. By this time, don't hesitate to take a look to my website, www.dsk91.com, where I'm regularly pushing some update news and analysis on IoT domain.